Lads, does anyone remember, right, the build-up, even going back as far back as February this year, the build-up to Chisora versus Usyk, right? When that fight was being talked about, when it was, getting rescheduled, pushed back, etc., etc. It seems as though I should take some credit, and I'm saying this jokingly, by the way, I should take some credit in getting that fight across the line, because every single time I made a video asking, what's the crack with this fight, what's the story with this fight, when are we going to get this fight, I would no sooner make a video than we would see news about the fight. I mean, literally, I remember the day when that fight was originally announced, right? I think like that morning I made a video asking, what's the crack with this fight, and within like an hour of me uploading it, boom, fight was announced. So I had to go home and, I was working at the time, but I had to go home and, make another video saying, okay, we got the fight announced. Well, I done a video the other day asking where is Chris Eubank Jr., because we've heard precious little from him over the last year, basically. Well, it's not official, but we're hearing some promotional news on Chris Eubank Jr. Now, it's an interesting one. It's stating, although I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen a few people tweet this, that he is currently, I believe he's either in negotiations or it's set to be announced, that he is actually signing with the Sauerlands, right? I think it's Kellen Nessa Sauerland, right? Now, I know Kella on his Twitter page was posting some, big announcement coming soon. A lot of people just assumed it would be the World Boxing Super Series Season 3, because obviously, that's kind of their thing. Or they're working with the World Boxing Super Series. But various people are reporting now that they're going to sign Chris Eubank Jr. Now, as we all know, Eubank Jr., he's it's been an odd few years, to say the least, and you don't hear many people who sign with the Sauerlands who are not based in East Europe. If you think to some of the fighters who've signed with Sauerland over the years, or who Sauerland have managed, I mean, Sauerland promoted Povetkin at one stage, they promoted Marco Huck, I think, at one stage, they promoted Marius Wack at one stage, they had Arthur Abraham, he was one of their big guys, they had George Groves, actually David Price, so they had a few guys over the years, but they've never, especially considering the fact that boxing in Germany, because I mean a lot of the Sauerland shows are based out of Germany. I mean, if you go and look at Povetkin, when he turned pro first, a lot of his fights when he was with the Sauerlands were in Germany. So they're putting a lot of shows on in Germany. The German market, even before 2020, really was dropping exponentially over the years. Like even prior to 2020, you very seldom saw big fights out in Germany. You saw Abraham when he was reigning as WBO super middleweight champion. Remember Sky showed a few of those shows. They did show the odd Sauerland show. You had Jurgen Bremer as WBA regular light heavyweight champion, but you didn't really have much else after that. So the shows in Germany have been really dying, and that's really kind of where Sauerlands have been based. Obviously, they've been putting on the World Boxing Super Series. But in terms of promoters that you would think Eubank Jr. would want to be working with, obviously he was advised by Al Heyman. He was doing deals with Al Heyman. I did always say that, well, at least I've been saying for a while, that I think that there's always like a conflict of interest between the two. I think obviously Al Heyman brought Eubank Jr. in there because he wanted it to be an opponent for Jamal Charlo. But I always got the impression Eubank Jr. maybe it wasn't that he didn't necessarily want the fight. Maybe he was looking in a different direction. Maybe he was looking at Canelo or someone like that, because he would talk about Charlo and then he would just leave that subject altogether and then go on Canelo. And then maybe he'd briefly talk about him again and then he'd go back on to Canelo. Eubank Jr., when this whole Al Heyman thing started, he fought James DeGale on ITV pay-per-view in February 2019. We were told 3 to 4 fights in 2019. We got only one more fight after that in December 2019, and we haven't seen Eubank Jr. since. 2020, at one stage in the year, we were seeing precious little in terms of boxing, but we still saw most of the big names. We saw Canelo, we saw Billy Joe, we saw Tyson Fury, AJ, Wilder. All these guys we saw. Now, Eubank Jr. is not necessarily a big, massive marquee name. He'd be big enough in the UK and Ireland, but he wouldn't be a big draw, outside of, this part of the world. But even still, we saw precious little of him. In terms of UK promoters, I mean, originally he was with Frank Warren. I mean, that was acrimonious. Then he went to Eddie Hearn. And again, they had an acrimonious split over the Golovkin situation. And after the Golovkin situation kind of happened, it was, how do I describe it? They kind of went back to Frank Warren briefly. It wasn't a promotional deal, but they were going to fight Tommy Langford. And I believe they were going to put Nathaniel Wilson on that card when he was meant to fight Tommy Langford. And obviously the Eubanks, I don't think, wanted that necessarily. I don't think they were on speaking terms with Nathaniel Wilson at the time. and they went their own way. They done that ITV deal. The ITV deal was what it was. I think it was Richard Paxton was the guy who they were actually working with, who was promoting the shows with ITV. I had 3 fights in 2017. There was, they put pay-per-view, they put that Renal Quinlan fight on pay-per-view. That was a real stinker. Although the undercard wasn't too bad. They had Arthur Abraham. Yeah, was what it was. Then they put on the Yildirim fight. There was 3 fights. Then we got George, because that was when Eubank was in the World Boxing Super Series. So he would have been working with the Sauerlands. I don't know how close he would have been working with them, but he would have been working with the Sauerlands at the time. Obviously, we got the George Groves fight. He lost that fight, and then it was really just... He really kind of has been in the wilderness since then. Apart from the James DeGale fight, it's... What the hell has Eubank Jr. been doing? Other than, you know, showing clips of him training with Roy Jones. It's not been much going on. Him signing with the Sauerlands, I mean, are they going to try and branch into the UK market, Kella and Nessa? Is that what they're going to try? Are they going to push shows on to the UK now? Although I don't, yeah, I'd say push shows on to the UK. I mean, good luck with that these days, for the foreseeable future anyway. Are they going to base Eubank Jr. in like somewhere like Germany or something like that? Now, this is assuming he actually does sign a deal with them, but at this minute in time, I don't see any other reason why he wouldn't. You'd wonder who else is he going to go to, because, you know, Eddie Hearn, God knows what the situation is there. Frank Warren, hell no. Hell no. But Sauerland, we'll have to watch this space. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting turn of developments. I felt I'd make a video, have a chat about it. You know, as I said, I made Chisora Usyk videos saying, when's this fight going to happen? Or is this fight going to happen? Is this fight getting scrapped? And every goddamn time, no sooner than I make the video, boom, something came up. Seriously, it was... I couldn't believe it. Well, I actually was thinking that I was getting trolled by Eddie Hearn at one stage, when it was like, every single... This fight seems dead in the water. Oh no, this fight's going to happen at the end of October. Of course it will. Of course it will. Of course it will. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think? Eubank Jr. with the Sauerlands, you know. Kella Sauerland's a funny guy. I love seeing the IFL interviews, you know. The comment section is always funny with him. But yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section. Smash the like button, lads, if you haven't already. We try to get this channel 700 subs to go. We want to try to get this channel to 4K. Let's try and get 4K. Hashtag GMans rocks, all that good stuff. Lads, I'll talk to you. Peace.